Universe! Welcome back to Sequoia and the Dead on our Dead Roots channel. Super excited to have here today Ira.
Hello.
Would you like to introduce a little bit about yourself real fast?
Name is Ray Davis the third. I get the third because I'm special, and most people aren't like that. I'm 23, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Age is just a number. It's all an illusion.
I'm 23 and I live in Colorado. Have lived in Colorado my whole life, born and raised. I don't really have any hobbies besides talking to people and making connections, and I have to work for a living, which sucks.
Well, what do you do for work right now?
Right now I'm a receptionist over at a medical center, which is
that's super cool.
Yeah, it's one of my first jobs doing that. Before this, I used to work at an Amazon warehouse, and I was working construction before that.
Very nice.
I kind of just switch around. I'm trying to, find where I kind of fit and where I can, be my most comfortable while working anyway, while also trying to, do side projects and stuff.
Would you consider that a medical receptionist job kind of emotionally demanding? Do you see some things that you would rather not see?
Honestly, it's kind of up to the patients. I see many patients who, genuinely they need help and they're very thankful for their help. And there's some patients that they need help, but they want it their way. And unfortunately, in medical, it can't always be your way. There's certain things that, you have to adhere to if you want to be healthy.
Yeah, we really haven't gotten to that individualized medicine yet, which is soon to be along the way.
Pretty much everybody is on the same page, even if you don't think about it. So it's not too far away from something like that of being independent or individual health. But we're really close to it, yet we're really far. Yeah. Because not everybody's thinking that way, but
especially
at the
with the
same time,
privatized all of that.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Everybody's not thinking the same way, but we all want it the same way. And it's just especially with the privatized pharmaceutical industry mainly, but the privatized hospital industry in general. It's just a whole shit show of people trying to keep their dominance. So that's why we aren't getting as much, like you said, personalized care, and everybody's kind of being treated like another number on a page.
Yeah, completely. Especially with the emergency rooms versus urgent care and everything like that. It's just in and out, in and out, in and out. There's no time, and even the average time that people have with their primary care physician is an average of 20 minutes a month.
20 minutes a month?
Yep.
Jesus.
Yeah,
that's not good at all.
Yeah, I took a medical law and ethics class the last semester I attended of college, and that was super enlightening, but kind of devastating in a lot of ways because they just covered a lot of bases I hadn't even considered before. Because my personal primary care physician, she's incredible, and she now knows because of my medical history. She does set aside a whole hour to spend with me whenever I have an appointment there, which is super nice. But I know it's not easy to find a primary care physician. That was probably my 8th or 9th over the last year or so before I found her. I was just bouncing around trying to find one that actually would listen to me. They just don't do that.
They really don't, and that's exactly why we do really need to focus on that primary specialized care. Everybody is treated not like a page or not like another page in a book, but they're treated
a whole book
as the whole book.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I respect about my employers, the singers. Their clinic is basically completely run by like that. They treat every single customer based on what they do because they're holistics.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're not pharmaceutical. They still use things like aspirin and stuff like that, and they'll prescribe some pharmaceuticals, but most of their treatments are physical therapy,
very individualized
radiation healing and stuff for people who have gone through cancer and radiation treatments and stuff. Chiropractic work. Dr. Singer is actually also a surgeon. And that's my main boss, is who I'm working for. I have so much respect for them. They treat their patients on such an individualistic level that they have entire just gigantic boxes full of fucking papers for one patient. They have all the information that they need. They constantly are doing their reports, and that's a patient that would be with them for maybe 10 years. like not even that long. But yeah, like they get as much information as they can, and they actually treat you like completely on a individualistic sense. So, and that's one thing that I really respect about them. But a lot of, hospitals and even pharmacies don't treat their patients like that.
Oh,
and so that is
not
the
at all.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you don't mind me asking, what is the highest education level you have achieved or attempted?
I dropped out of high school on my junior year. I've taken a few college courses, nothing really of significance. I took an algebra college course. I took a psychology. Yeah. A psychology college course, and I took a college course for jewelry making.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a will?
I do.
You do?
I do. Yeah,
that's
believe
fantastic.
It or not. A lot of people don't think about that. Give
me a fist bump because the clap would be too loud. The high five here.
But yeah, I do have a will because I don't really have any properties or many possessions that I like own in my name. I only have 2, and that's my car and a previous installment of a shed that I own part of. But that's over on a buddy of mine named Tony's property. So he has that on his... I wouldn't say it's a farm. It's just his property. It's his land, basically. But I own half of that, and he just lets me keep my shit there. It's literally just a storage unit for me.
That's really cool.
But yeah, he's really nice about it. And he takes care of his land and everything, so I don't have to worry about like my shit getting, like water damage or anything like that. He takes really good care of his property.
But when did you make your will, and how did you go about doing that?
So I made my will when I was 21. Kind of went through like, I guess like an early life kind of crisis, and just started like really, thinking that like I was going to die at any minute. Extreme like paranoia and stuff. But, I made my will probably about 2 or 3 months after I turned 21, and, it basically goes as follows. Everything that I own, everything that's in my possession and in my name, will get immediately transferred to my brother. If my brother is unable to receive my inheritance, say he dies, it'll get transferred to my sister.
Very nice.
In the case that neither parties are able to accept my inheritance, my policy is that everything will be donated.
That's great.
So, just get it, back out into the economy and everything like that, basically. Whatever way, like it happens, or, just give it to like friends who want it. Like, say I had a truck at the time I died, and I was planning on selling it to a friend or something. Like, he'd just get that.
That's nice.
Because like I'm dead, I'm not gonna need it.
Yeah, right, exactly. You don't need 4 wheels like, if you're cruising intergalactically.
I don't need 4 wheels. I don't need a couch. I don't need my apartment. Like, say, by the time I do die, like I have a paid off apartment or something that I own. Like, I don't fucking need that anymore. Give it to somebody who does. That's kind of how I think we all should do things, but I definitely think like family should come first. Yeah.
Well, like, it's really hard to like designate things like that when we don't want to have the conversation, because no one wants to have that conversation. Like,
and I don't get that. Like, no one wants to talk about like the things that are going to happen after you do die, because everybody knows where you are going to die. No one even likes talking about that, honestly. Most people.
Gosh. Yeah, there was a conversation I had a little while ago with my mom's boyfriend's daughter, and we were talking about death. I don't even know how it came up. That we might have been discussing like suicide attempts or something, and she was like, yeah, well, even just at the dinner table, like we weren't allowed to discuss that at all. Like, if we brought it up at the dinner table whatsoever, it was completely frowned upon. It was like disrespectful.
I know for most Christian families anyway, or most families that have Christian values, death just at any time is always just not a polite thing to. Yeah, it's taboo to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's seen as disrespectful if you do. So I can get that, but I'm assuming she wasn't in a Christian family.
I actually am not too sure what their upbringing was. I think it was Catholic, but I'm not 100%. No, it was. I think they're Mormon. Now that I'm thinking about it, and I don't know much about...
I don't know really anything about Mormon, but I do know, for at least what I do know, they don't really have... Like, they have 3 different types of heavens. So they actually don't really have, like, any, nitpicky or reason to not talk about death. It's more of, like, something that you would definitely, like, they would definitely discuss it with their kids at the dinner table. is what I'm
Now
trying
I'm-
to say. Like,
now
they
I'm
would
really
just
curious.
talk about that. But yeah, no, as far as like Christianity, I know like Christian, Catholic, Lutheran. I was raised Lutheran.
Oh.
Yeah, Christian, Catholic, Lutheran, all of those. There's a fourth one. I'm not remembering the name, but yeah, in all the Christian religions, it is like more of a taboo to talk about death, and it's not as conversationalistic as a lot of the other religions are. Like, I know in Buddhism, they have no problem talking about that. You know, like talking about reincarnation. You know, with their friends or
Yeah.
family or anything like that. They're very conversationalistic about that. I know Mormons don't really have a reason, but yeah, that's the only thing I could think of is if she had a Christian upbringing.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask honestly later on and see what their upbringing was, because I know that my mom's boyfriend's parents are all Mormon, but I don't know what his ex-wife's upbringing was
And
what
they could
she
have had, differing.
brought to the table, literally or metaphorically.
Yeah.
Like, do you currently identify with any religion?
I currently don't. I used to identify as Celestialist until I figured out that was basically just the fancy pants name of saying, fuck. I literally just mentioned it. I think it's Buddhist. Yeah.
Oh,
it's just the
okay.
fancy pants way of saying Buddhist is Celestialist. So I don't, really subscribe to that because I'm definitely not Buddhist. I've studied a lot into like a lot of different religions, even like more archaic religions, anarchy, Satanism, all those kind of like more frowned upon religions and everything. But I wouldn't really identify with any of them. Like my basic belief is we all have a soul, we all have our free will, and it's up to our free will to strengthen our soul. So
That's
you go
interesting.
throughout life, you get experiences, you get beaten down, you get picked up, and then eventually you die, your soul transfers onto another life. But it's a collective information of your soul. And once we're fully complete, once you are a soul that has experienced everything there is to experience, done everything there is to do, loved, hated, murdered, prayed, like anything that you can think of. Once your soul has had all those experiences, is then when we become our next set of evolution, which is a continuous consciousness, and we would just kind of stay there, collect information. That's because that's all we really need, honestly, is knowledge. That's all we crave.
Oh yeah, we're learning creatures. I gotta ask though, because if you identify as a Celestialist, how do you believe in free will? How does that work, especially
Free will.
with your intelligence surrounding like physics and
Oh.
all other things like that?
It's honestly, I don't even have like intelligence on those kind of matters. I just study a lot of what I'm interested in. So yeah, like space, stars, physics.
Well, that's an
Are
intelligence.
always something that I've always like been really interested in, try to learn everything about, or everything that I can about. But I'm definitely no genius. I get things wrong all the time, and I'm really bad with names. So
Well, you're
I'll
human.
I'll say
First and
like
foremost, you're
cosmonaut
human.
when I mean astronaut, and it's like nope, those aren't the same things.
Wait, are they not?
No, cosmonaut are people that venture outside of our universe. We don't have cosmonauts. Astronauts are people who adventure outside into
Out of the
space,
atmosphere.
out of the atmosphere of where we currently dwell. Astro.
Oh,
And then
okay.
cosmos.
That
Yeah.
I like that
They're-
differentiation. I had
they're
no
two,
idea.
They're two different things, yeah.
That's really cool. My current religion I identify as a psychonaut, which is different kind. So
I don't know what a psychonaut is, but I loved the game Psychonauts, and that just kind of reminded me of it.
I have no idea what that is.
It's
but
a fucking sick game where they like it's like a game that basically they can use like their mind powers to do different things. Like they can,
like Green Lantern.
yeah, basically like they can float, they can like like make like a orb or something, like smash stuff. They can like make an imaginary fit, like not imaginary, but like a fist or something that like isn't actually there. It's just their mind power doing it. Like it's
That's
so cool.
So like totally like Green Lantern.
Exactly, completely like Green Lantern. It's such a good game. It's such an old game. It was an old like 2002 PS2 game.
Oh nice.
Yeah, like so fucking old.
Okay, I gotta go back though. Like, how do you believe?
Sorry.
How do you believe in free will? Like, how does that work? Because I personally, like, I do not believe in free will.
I
Like,
believe that free will isn't completely free. I believe heavily in fate and karma. Okay. And as you go throughout life and as you make experiences, this is just how I believe, but as you go throughout life and as you make experiences, your fate is set on a certain path from day one. But as you do things, whether good or bad, karmic value changes your fate. Mm-hmm. So say you do a lot of bad things, your life, your fate is going to get continually worse until you can redeem yourself and make up for those bad things that you've done. And bad and good are honestly just subjective terms of what we have. It's really absolutely. All about like the biggest question that I ask people is like, well, what if a man killed somebody because he was about to fucking threaten his family? I would say that would be a good thing. I would not fucking harm that man. I would not see that as sin or anything like that. If he had to kill,
well, what is
like
righteous?
If it was
what
necessary.
Is righteous might not seem globally moral.
Exactly.
And that is the rawest form of justice, I feel like.
And honestly, especially as we progress as a society, we need to get a better view of what right and wrong actually are. Jaywalking isn't wrong. It's not a problem as long as you're not putting yourself or anybody else in danger.
Skateboarding on the sidewalk. What even is that?
What the fuck? Or same with bikers being on like the road when there's no like bike lane. Mm-hmm. It's like.
But they're not allowed on the sidewalk either.
But they're not allowed on the side. Exactly. So it's like, what
so
else
many,
are they supposed to do? You can get mad at it, but
it's so many contradictions in what we decide as our justice. It's not a justice system. It's a set of rules that were convenient for someone at some point. And now everyone has to agree.
Now it has to be adhered to.
Yep.
Which is not okay. But back to your question of free will, that's kind of like how I think our free will works. Like, we're not forced to do anything necessarily, but we have to follow the path that we create.
So you think we create our path then?
Yes.
That's where I find that interesting.
Like, we create our own path, but it changes and we have to adhere to our own rules when we make them. And stuff like that. Like you do something super terrible in your life or something. You vow yourself never to do that again. Your path is going to change.
I see where you're getting at from a very human standpoint.
Yeah.
We all originated from the Big Bang. Yes. Every single particle has a predetermined destination because of that moment. The trajectory of every particle is going to be preset to collide into other particles later because they all came from the same source. So with that in mind, we might have a slight, like, orbital shift that we might be in control of. But I don't think that we have any long-term control, because especially if our soul, like you're saying, is to learn these lessons, and we're creatures of habit.
Yes.
I don't know if that's true for our soul or spirit, whatever you want to call it, but I don't think we consciously can make that path for ourselves to learn those lessons.
So, like, what you're saying is you don't think that, like, you think that, like, if we came back, like we died, we came back, we would most likely wind up running down the same path as we previously did.
Yes, and okay. I think to a certain degree we have to have a lot of faith in our fate.
Yes. Whether
that be mortality or whether that be a bad relationship or even a really good relationship, being able to accept that karmically, like, hey, I am good enough for that. Yeah. Like, that's equally difficult to go through sometimes. But when we think about every little atom, every little particle they all do their own little thing that they do.
Yeah. Like, everything has its own purpose.
Why do we think that we're any different? We're not going to operate.
Well, I think, so how I see it is, even though you might not be consciously aware of it, your soul still has those memories. Your soul still has those experiences.
I completely agree with that.
Why would anybody want to do something? Because, again, we might be creatures of habit, but we are also intellect seekers. We constantly crave new information. So if our soul doesn't have that information, we're going to seek something that we don't have. So even though you might follow a similar path, you're still going to wind up doing different things. You know, maybe in one life you help an old lady across the street, and then in another life you would ignore her and walk across the street. Like, we have to get all of those experiences, all those different possibilities together to move on to that higher plane where we don't have to reincarnate anymore. Now we can literally just flow through and just collect information. We're not bound by a physical body. We're bound by our limitless search for knowledge.
Do you think that the idea of time being linear is limiting?
Explain, because I have a really weird view of time.
Okay, so our existence of time is relative. Like, Einstein says so, science says so, math says so. It's whatever. How fast you're moving, how big you are, all of these different things will completely change your perspective of time itself.
Yeah.
But on a cosmic scale, do you think that it is linear? Like, we have this moment and this moment, and that you could backtrack to this point where all of these planets are perfectly aligned exactly the way it was at this point in time.
So I'm glad I'm glad you actually explained it like that, because that's exactly what I was kind of going to go into. Like, my view of time being weird when I said that. Basically how I think about it is like, you know, we're in the Milky Way. We are in one single universe out of an insanely amount of other universes and also multiverses. So
string theory.
every single point in the galaxy has to be at a different time. We're all orbiting around one single gigantic fucking star, like insanely huge. And that thing isn't going to die out anytime soon, because it literally sustains itself by eating other planets and other galaxies. So it's never going to fucking die out. It'll always have a power supply.
Do you know the name of this star?
I do not know the name of the star, but it's literally the star that all the multiverses revolve around. So all galaxies, all other universes other than the Milky Way, other than what they call Universe X, which is our universe.
Is this something that's been determined by like NASA and things like that, or is this a theoretical?
No, this is my theory.
Oh, okay, okay. I just wanted to be sure.
Like, a couple of these things, like as far as, you know, multiple universes and everything like that, we do have, or galaxies, or what they're called, night universes. As far as multiple galaxies, you know, that obviously has been proven, and we know about that and stuff like that. So I'm basically chipping on a theory onto knowledge that I do know.
Okay.
But yeah, basically what I think about time anyway is every single one of those is in a completely different time, because we're all correlating and circling around at a different pace, at a different...
Love that. But like, so do you think that a singular soul can inhabit multiple of those time frames and universes at the same time?
Yes.
Hey,
well, once we get to the point to where we can just transcend, like I said, we're going to want to learn everything about everything. Obviously, we're not going to learn everything about everything if we're stuck in one galaxy, if we're stuck in one universe. We have to be able, and we'll get smart enough as we go, but we'll have to be able to figure out ways of being able to traverse that and
that
actually get to the next place that we can learn more about. So
I agree with that.
It's basically endless. And
here's my hang up a little bit though, because you can't operate multiple vehicles at one time with a great amount of effective progress. Yeah. So is our free will bad because of that, or do you think that there's a different way of operating these vehicles?
I would say that there is always a different way. And that's one thing that we have always learned throughout history. There is always a different way to look at a situation. There's always a different way to come to a logical conclusion. We can make logical conclusions out of any fucking perceivable point as long as we can think of them. So that's really the only limit. So I would agree with you that free will, I do think, is bad. Like, kind of in a general sense. If we didn't have free will and we all, you know, did go on a certain path, like the path that we needed to go on to at that time that we need to go on to it, there wouldn't be so many complications. There honestly probably wouldn't be so much death and fucking misery in the world. People wouldn't be as depressed. People wouldn't be struggling with massive amounts of decisions that they can't copiously solve.
You brought death into this. How does do you view death as a negative?
No, I view death as an inevitability that many people just kind of can't wrap their head around.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
No, you're good.
Have you ever done psychedelics?
I have, yes.
Do you mind if I ask, like, how much, what of, and how often, what you used it for, what not?
Usually I used it, like, for meditation. Because I used
it.
to do a lot of meditation. I have always struggled with, like, ADHD.
I feel so much.
That was perfect. Perfectly
So
timed stupidity. Anyway. I've always struggled with ADHD, and so meditation has always really helped me, like, be able just to kind of like black out my mind. Like, one of the things that I do, like, even when I need to sleep, I was telling you about this earlier, but I'll repeat it for the microphone. But yeah, like, even when I sleep, I have a method that takes me, it makes it to where I am not staying in bed for like 3-4 hours before I get to sleep. I can fall asleep in about 45 minutes with this technique. And basically all I do is I just picture everything white, but I also picture all the words white. So it all blends together, and I don't have any like overlapping shit that I'm like reading or trying to think about in my head. Like, my consciousness is just blacked out from me for a little while. And that helps me get tired enough to actually fall the fuck asleep. Shit, what was the original question?
Have you ever done psychedelics? So when you have done
Yes.
psychedelics, has it been LSD or has it been psilocybin?
I've done a couple different ones. I've done LSD, I've done mushrooms, and I've done ayahuasca once.
You did ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca. I don't know what the fuck that translates to, but it's a Native American hallucinogen, and I actually did it with a chief shaman. I think I've told you this. My family's majority Native American.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my mother's Native American name is actually Cinnamon Hawk Rosenbaum. Yeah.
That's a mouthful.
Right. But she actually, has, since she's not enough Native American, she can't like live on a reservation, which is what she really wanted to do. But the people that she knows on a Indian reservation are very good friends of her, and so they allow us to come every once in a while. Like, they invite us on their land. They're okay with it. Because I know that's a big thing, and when you bring up Native American, people are like, you're not supposed to go on their land. Well, if you're invited, there's not a problem. But last time I went there for a spiritual journey, and my mom knew about that. And so, because I have to have my mom with me, because they won't let me on the land. I'm more split than she is. But went on the land, and they took me to a smoke lodge, and they gave me a small cup of ayahuasca. Apparently, if you drink a lot of fucking ayahuasca, it will kill you. I did not know that.
I could believe that. It is just a toxin, isn't it?
It's completely toxic. Like, she was telling me that one of the fucking squirrels got into the batch while they were making it, because they have to make it over open air. One of the squirrels got into a batch and just fucking fell straight dead. Like, yeah. So yeah, very toxic. But they gave me a small glass of that, and I sat in the sweat lodge, and that was probably my most enlightening experience of my entire life. Like, like I said, I've done shrooms and LSD before. I've done DMT as well. I forgot that's a hallucinogen.
Regular DMT or 5-MeO?
I don't know what it is, but this was like 10 years ago, so I'm assuming regular DMT.
Okay. Well, 5-MeO is from the toad, the alpha Bufo alvarez. There we go.
Yeah, I didn't like lick a toad or anything. I don't know what to say. Yeah, no.
I was just curious because they can be sourced from multiple. They can be sourced from roots and plants and things like that, or it can be sourced from the toad. So I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I got it in it was like a little powder form. Basically, looked like crystallized cocaine, kind of. I don't know how else to say
there you go.
it,
Okay.
but yeah. But no, it like ayahuasca was a way better experience than even DMT. It was just like when you're tripping and you're kind of alone with your thoughts.
Oh yeah,
everything like that. It's like being alone with your thoughts, but actually genuinely being able to have a full conversation with yourself. Like, you can fully talk about whatever, and like all like the anxiety, the fear that you get, like usually from like paranoia. You can be like completely paranoid and like you will calm yourself down, like through conversation.
Do you get
it's insane.
paranoid on psychedelics?
I don't get paranoid on psychedelics. I get paranoid in life in general. I'm an extremely sketchy kind of person. Not sketchy kind of person. That sounds bad. Sketched out kind of person. And like I'm constantly like in a state of mind of like, oh, like what if this happens? What if this happens? Like I said, I'm an overthinker, but it's more like if you only overthought about all the bad things. That's kind of what I do.
Yeah, so. I get that to a certain degree. Like, I definitely have pretty severe life paranoia, but psychedelics is like the only time that I feel like it's not there. Like, I completely can let go, and I can take ridiculous amounts because I like that level of freedom.
Like freedom, yeah.
And
like
that's
not being...
Do not recommend, listeners, viewers, do not recommend taking high doses of psychedelics.
Never a good thing. Always know to, space yourself out.
Know your limits. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
and know your, like, headspace, too.
Yeah, like, don't... one thing I always tell people, as far as, like, drinking, since we're talking about, safety warnings and stuff, something I always tell people is, like, don't drink while you're sad. Never drink while you're sad. If you're sad, don't even fucking do it. You drink when you're happy, you drink when you have something to celebrate, you drink when you're hanging out. Like, don't drink while you're sad. And I'm a hypocrite to that, honestly. I drink a lot when I'm sad, but that's because I have addiction issues and shit like that. So I'm a hypocrite in that, but I always make sure to, like, tell people, the smarter way to do things. Like, do as I say, not as I do. I'm a bad example. But,
oh my gosh, yeah. I'm right there with you entirely. Oh my gosh. Did your parents or guardians ever explain the concept of death before your first experience?
Yes, actually. So I was raised solely by my mom. My dad had major alcoholic and meth addiction issues, and
fun.
Was constantly in and out of our lives. Like, he would come by for a week, maybe every other 3 months, something like that, and take money from my mom. Beat her up. He put her in the hospital twice. Take money from my mom and then just fucking leave. Wow. And all the while she was taking care of 2 grown boys, and later came a beautiful fucking baby girl, and that was my sister. But what was I saying? Yeah, my mom always had, because she was raised super sheltered, like insanely sheltered, like hard ass Catholic values. They prayed every night before bed. They fucking would pray at dinner. Like, went to church every fucking Sunday. She actually went to Sunday school and all that shit. Like, they were very devout Christian Catholics. So she was grown like a plant. She was grown.
She was cultivated.
She is cinnamon hawk. So yeah. Anyway, gotta grow that shit. Anyway. She was raised in a extremely sheltered environment, and that's the one thing that she never wanted to do with us. So my mom always had a rule, and I would ask her about it every once in a while, but she always had a rule: she will not censor anything for her children. She never did. She would let us watch extremely fucking graphic, violent movies. I watched Pulp Fiction when I was 7.
Love Pulp Fiction.
Love that movie. But she let us fucking, because we all shared one computer, but anything that we wanted to look up, there was no block, there was no censor, there was no parental controls or anything like that. And I think honestly that made it like really easy, like when my dad did pass away, to just kind of like understand that. Like, I didn't have to be like, oh, like, why is dad gone and stuff like that, because I did still love my dad. Like, I didn't see him at his worst, but I was a kid and I loved my dad. Yeah. When he actually did die and fucking we were at the funeral and everything, like, it was very easy just to kind of comprehend it. I wasn't like asking myself questions or anything like that. I was more just like I understood what happened. It wasn't like a shock that it happened. I knew it would happen eventually, just like I know with my mom. Like, honestly, my biggest fear is that I won't cry at my mom's funeral, because like I said, she's been the only fucking person to raise us, and like, she really is my superhero, honestly. I'll be fully honest with that. but I'm afraid that I won't cry at her funeral because I didn't cry at my dad's. And that's, again, because I knew it was happening. It wasn't a big deal. But that's my biggest fear, is that she'll leave this world and her soul will be looking over us and I won't have a tear to shed for her.
Well, on the flip side, she could be seeing you that way and almost be proud of you for that strength.
True.
So, don't...
I got all chucked up. Sorry.
You're all good. We have tissues if you need to,
No,
okay? But I do gotta say, we're running out of time here.
Yep.
So... thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for part 2. That's 4, too. I really look forward to seeing you guys hop back in and hear the rest of our conversation. And be sure to leave comments if you're on Instagram and what questions you would like to hear from us. We look forward to seeing you on the other side. Live spicy.